Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting right into it, building a really practical toolkit for workplace motivation. We're going to cut through all the noise and use some proven psychological theories to give you a clear, structured summary of what actually drives people to do their best work.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll kick things off with a fantastic real-world masterclass from Disney. Then we're going to get into the weeds a little bit and unpack the two major types of motivation theories, what I like to call the how and the what. And finally, we'll bring it all together into a framework that you can actually use.
So let's start with Lee Cockerell. He's the former executive vice president of operations at Walt Disney World. Now, this is a guy who managed a massive team. We're talking over 40,000 people, and he absolutely mastered the art of motivation.
You know, his entire philosophy is captured perfectly right here in this one quote. It isn't about some complicated incentive program. At its heart, it's about making people feel genuinely valued and important. It's that simple, but it's also that profound.
So these principles, they really create a clear path for any leader. It's a system, right? It starts by recognizing the value of every single person. Then it empowers them by saying you are the brand. Then you give them the tools with great training. You clear away any roadblocks and you top it all off with leadership that actually walks the talk.
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, it sounds great, but why does it work? To answer that, we really need to look under the hood at the psychology of motivation itself, and researchers have generally broken this down into two main categories.
I want you to think of motivation like a car engine. This slide here lays out our roadmap. First, we're going to look at what are called process theories. That's the mechanics of how the engine actually works, the nuts and bolts. And then we'll explore the content theories. That's the fuel that makes the whole thing run.
So let's start with the mechanics of that engine, the process theories. We're going to begin with the most fundamental model just to understand how motivation gets triggered in the first place.
So the needs-goal theory is the absolute foundation. It's a simple four-step loop that's happening all the time. You feel a need, let's say you're thirsty. That creates a drive, which leads to a behavior, like walking to the kitchen. Then you do the thing, you drink the water, and you get feedback that the need is satisfied. It is a constant loop running in our brains all day long.
Okay, now Vroom's expectancy theory adds this crucial layer of, well, mental math. It suggests we're not just driven by simple needs, we're constantly doing a cost-benefit analysis. Our motivation is basically a product of how badly we want something multiplied by how likely we think we are to get it. And here's the kicker, if either one of those is zero, well, your motivation is zero. Now, equity theory brings in a really critical social piece. It argues that we are just wired to look for fairness. We are constantly, and usually subconsciously, comparing our own effort to reward ratio with the people around us. We're always asking, is what I'm putting in and what I'm getting out fair compared to them?
And here's the crucial point. That feeling of unfairness, it isn't just a bad mood. It's a powerful motivator all on its own, and it drives very specific behaviors. We might start working less to balance the scales, or we might go ask for a raise. We might even just try to convince ourselves it's not so bad, or we just quit.
The Porter-Lawler model basically brings all of these process ideas together. It's the most complete picture we have. It shows that our motivation isn't just one thing. Nope. It's a complex system where our needs, our expectations, our sense of fairness, and even our own abilities all get fed into the engine before we get that final burst of motivation.
Okay, so we've covered the how, the mechanics of motivation. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about the what. What is the fuel for this whole engine? What are the core, fundamental human needs that drive us?
And to find that fuel, we have to turn to the most famous content theory out there, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow argued that our needs are stacked in a specific order. We have to start at the very bottom with the absolute basics for survival.
Once those basic needs are met, we can move up a level to our need for safety and security.
And once we have that foundation of survival and safety, we start to seek out our social needs. You know, that fundamental desire to belong and connect with other people. Above that, we start striving for esteem, that need to feel respected, to feel competent, and to be recognized by others for our contributions.
And finally, at the very, very top of the pyramid is self-actualization. This is the drive to become the absolute best version of ourselves, to reach our full potential. But you have to climb the pyramid first. You can't focus on your potential when you're worried about where your next meal is coming from.
Now, Alderfer's ERG theory came along and updated Maslow's model, making it a bit more flexible.
He condensed the 5 levels into 3 core drivers: existence, which covers our basic survival, relatedness for our social connections, and growth for personal development. The biggest difference here is that Alder suggested we can be motivated by these needs at the same time, which, let's be honest, feels a lot more like real life.
So, how do we actually use all of this in the real world? Well, the key is to stop seeing these theories as competing against each other. Instead, think of them as different lenses in your toolkit that you can use to understand why people do what they do.
Let's circle all the way back to our Disney example. Remember Cockrell's principle about making employees feel important? Well, that's not just some nice fluffy idea. It is a powerhouse motivator because it directly satisfies our esteem needs from Maslow's pyramid, and it helps balance that fairness equation from equity theory. See how they work together?
And here it is. This is your new motivation toolkit, all in one place. Think of this as your quick reference guide. So if someone on your team seems unmotivated, you can pull out this toolkit and use these lenses. Are their basic needs being met? Do they believe their hard work will pay off? Do they feel like things are fair? This table gives you the questions you need to start asking.
And that brings us to the final, and probably the most important takeaway. Understanding all these frameworks is incredibly powerful, but actually applying them, that starts with understanding yourself. So take a second and really think, which of these needs and processes drives you the most? Because knowing that is the very first step to mastering your own motivation.